And so far, the federal government and the Senate have been giving handouts to the big corporations, but they haven't been supporting the small businesses, and especially the small minority-owned businesses. Last week, I was over in Aurora, and I saw some Latino-owned businesses, African-American businesses, and they were struggling. And they didn't get any of the PPP funds from the first CARES Act that came out. They didn't have, chief financial officers. They didn't have big banks that would get them to the front of the line. So they were too late. And I think those small businesses are the backbone of America. And if I go to Washington, I would want to reach out to Republicans and other Democrats and say, all right, let's focus on the small businesses. That's where job creation is. Hey, my opponent, Cory Gardner, doesn't believe background checks are that useful. He doesn't think they should even be discussed on the floor of the US Senate, even though 90% of the people in Colorado think that universal background checks would be an important step forward in making our country safer. So, we passed it here. I think it should be national policy that we get background checks. In Colorado, it's amazing. When we went back and looked at the data, there were over 3,000 violent criminals who tried to buy a gun, and we stopped them. My Republican friends said that, crooks, criminals aren't stupid. They're not going to try and get a background check before they buy a gun. They are stupid, right? There were 3,000 people in 2012 who tried to buy a gun, and we stopped them. That included 38 people convicted of homicide who tried to buy a gun, and we stopped them. Cory Gardner won't stand up for universal background checks. And it might have something to do with he's received almost $4 million in support from the NRA, the National Rifle Association. I never thought as an American I would see the day when families were broken apart, children were snatched from the arms of their parents, they were put in cages or sometimes cells. Now we see reports of forced hysterectomies at the border. This is not the America that most of us grew up in and that we feel is our country. And I think we need to look at first, let's get the humanitarian crisis at the border taken care of. Let's make sure we have sufficient resources, sufficient facilities to be able to process the people that are coming to the border seeking a new life as refugees. Second, we've got to look at comprehensive immigration reform, and we can start with DACA, with the Dreamers. We need to protect the Dreamers, make sure they have a quick pathway to citizenship. Most of them don't have another country except this country. It's the only country they know. Donald Trump has been trying to deport Dreamers and trying to get rid of DACA, and Cory Gardner hasn't said a word. Cory Gardner stands quietly by as Donald Trump, I think, works directly against the Dreamers and is ultimately wants to deport them. That's crazy. It just doesn't make sense. I also think we have to recognize we need a whole new approach to our guest worker system and make sure that when people come and work in this country, they can have a work visa and then go back and forth and visit their families. We need more workers in this country, especially for certain industries, agricultural, hospitality, tourism, technology. And there's a way we can have guest worker systems that still protect American workers, but make sure that our businesses have the workers they need to grow. So I'd ask Cory Gardner, why are you trying to take away protections for people with pre-existing conditions, right? Why are you supporting President Trump's lawsuit to eliminate the Affordable Care Act and remove all those protections when you don't have a replacement? How can you do that?